Legend has it that Abraham Lincoln once said, "If it looks too good to be true on the internet, it's probably AI generated." And when it comes to this PC case, we've got to listen to the alleged voice of Honest Abe. This is the Geometric Future Model 5, and we're going to separate the artificial from the intelligent right here, right now on Robeytech. Strap yourselves in because this review is going to get weird. And we've seen some weird PC cases here at Robeytech. Now you might be looking at this case and thinking, wow, what's the big deal, Roby? It looks like a mid-tower meets dual-chamber PC case. And to that I would say yes-ish. But the closer you look at it, the weirder it gets, especially if you go to the Model 5 website. The site is riddled with what looks like AI-generated parts filling in the case with unrealistic cable runs, oddly placed components, and some information that just doesn't seem right. Does that make the Geometric Future Model 5 a terrible case, or is it not worth the time to review it? Well, even in spite of what looks confusing, or confused for that matter, we want to give it a fair shake. After all, Geometric Future did send us a case and you clicked on this video, so it looked interesting enough for you to be here. So we're going to do the thing we do here at Robeytech. We're going to build inside of it, test it, and then tell you all the pros and cons so that you can make the best decision for you. And if this is the kind of content you like and you haven't already, press the like, subscribe, and notification buttons. And with that, let's get to know the Geometric Future Model 5. Starting with the prices and models. The Model 5 is available in two versions, one with a tempered glass front, the other with a vented front, like the one we've got right here. The tempered glass version comes in 4 different color options, with the vented version coming in 3. Both have a starting price at $110 without fans, but those prices increase based on the color. Now we're going to be focusing on the white version of the Model 5 vent with fans today, but they're not going to be the ones you'll see in the beauty shots, and you'll discover why along the way. Now when we start looking at comparable cases, the Model 5 has some big competition from cases like the Montech King 95 Pro, Corsair's 3500X ARGB, which you can check out the review for right here, and the venerable Asus Tough Gaming GT302, again, also available to view right here. Though when it comes to visual interest, the Model 5 does stand out from the pack. As far as physical dimensions go, the Model 5 has a length and width closer to the Corsair 5000D, but with a height more akin to the Montech King 95, which you can see our view of right here. So it's got your kind of short king vibe to it, while also having a decently broad footprint. Now when it comes to the weight, the Model 5 weighs about 22 pounds or 10 kilograms. That puts it in line with cases like the Antec C8 and the NZXT H6 Flow, which another one you can check out right here. So not terribly heavy, but not a featherweight either. As for I/O controls, the Model 5 has 2 USB 3.0 Type A ports, a 20 gigabit USB Type C port, and combined audio jacks, as well as reset and power buttons. Now moving inside the Model 5 is made easy by toolless panels. They pop right off, with the exception of the front. While the front face of the case has a toolless removal itself, the fan bracket has 4 screws holding it into place. Now this is where we start diverting from what we're seeing and reading online about the Model 5 and what's actually true in real life. On paper, the Model 5 supports eATX, ATX, Micro ATX, and ITX motherboards. However, considering how this case is oriented and where the cables have to run, eATX might be a stretch. In other words, it might physically fit, but you might just not be able to use all of the connectors on the motherboard, or you might have to get creative on how you run your cables to them. Now, GPU support is another story. The Model 5 supports GPUs with a length of up to 460 millimeters. That's more than enough room for pretty much any larger modern GPU. Now, if you're interested in vertically mounting your GPU, the Model 5's entire PCI lane bracket rotates to flip your GPU into the right orientation. You still need a PCIe riser cable that will require some sacrifice of a few fans to be mounted at the bottom of the case. Now, if you want to horizontally mount your GPU, the Model 5 does come with an adjustable GPU sag bracket that we found actually to be pretty useful. Though, if you're going to use it, we recommend installing the GPU and the bracket inside the case to adjust it to the right height before you absolutely do anything else. And just so we're clear, you will need to remove the GPU before continuing on with the build. As much as the AI-generated promo shots would like you to believe that the Model 5 can break the law of physics, it can't. Not for the lack of trying. Now moving on to support for fans, the Model 5 can fit 3 120 or 2 140mm fans at the case front, 3 120s or 140s at the case top and bottom, 1 120 at the front of the case, and 1 120 or 140 at the case rear, and 2 hidden 120 or 140mm fans behind the motherboard. That's a wild amount of fans, and the mount for those fans in the back, you know, honestly, that's even wilder. you essentially have to use special screws to mount the top and bottom fans opposite one another, which, to be honest, doesn't leave you any room for EPS cables or anything else that needs to be mounted up at the top here without running them into the front chamber of the case. And of all the choices you can make, this is one of them. Moving on to radiator support, Geometric Future says that the Model 5 can fit a 360mm radiator at the case bottom and up to a 420mm radiator at the case top. Now this is where we have to call out the marketing on this, because maybe you could fit a narrow 420mm radiator at the top, but it would come at the sacrifice of the rear fan, or you would be forced to run the hoses to the front of the case. Not only that, in either orientation, you're blocking the top front fan, so you could do a 420mm rad, but honestly, you'd be better off sticking with the 360mm one here. Now, since we're up here, it's worth mentioning that the top mount is not removable from the case. This can make mounting radiators and fans a bit tricky, since some parts of the railing are challenging to get screws into. If, however, you want to use a CPU air cooler instead of an AIO, the Model 5 has up to 180mm worth of clearance. This is great news if you wanted to cool your CPU with something like the Cooler Master MA824 Stealth or the Noctua NHD15 G2. And with the Model 5 vent being open in the front, this case could be an air cooler's dream. Now, we'll have to wait and see. Now, moving on to storage space, the Model 5 has two mounting plates for either 2.5-inch or 3.5-inch drives. These mounting plates sit side by side on the same plate as the side front mount. And while we're here, this rear cavity is super tight. I mean, super tight. Now, Geometric Future brags that there is a whole 37mm worth of space back here. But once you stick a power supply and all that cabling in here, that is not a lot of real estate. Now, speaking of GPU support, we're not sure what pocket dimension Geometric Future thought this case was supposed to have for all of its cabling, but we had to get creative. Now, while the Model 5 is supposed to fit ATX-sized PSUs up to 160mm in length inside of the PSU pocket, we opted for an SFX-sized PSU, which really gave us flexibility from the cabling size, so we could make sure that it actually fit and worked in there. As you notice, the PSU sits at the top front side of the case in a very restrictive enclosure, and it uses an insert bracket to mount it with the power cable pointed upwards. This is kind of like a number of SFF cases where what they're doing is they basically have a power cable that runs all the way to the back of the case, which would be next to impossible to do if you had a 420mm radiator and those fans mounted behind the motherboard. At least impossible to run it cleanly through the case, unless you use the power of AI, which is what they did on their website. Now, the PSU enclosure does give the case a more open look, and it even has like a funky pull-out plate to display your favorite vinyl figures on. Just please don't make sure you put anything made of conductive material inside of it, because in case of any accident, number one, you might be hitting a fan, and number two, that doesn't tend to play well with electronics. I'm sorry, Gen 1 Megatron action figure, but we're gonna have to go elsewhere with our little figure to show downstairs. Now, rounding out the tour of everything inside of the Model 5, the front panel control cables do not have a unified front panel control connector, which is a bummer because AI should have known that PC builders love unified connectors. As for the USB 3, USB-C, and HD audio, they were all white in the case we're reviewing, with the exception, of course, the HD audio mini cables. Come on, APNX, they did it right. Can't we all just not use the ketchup and mustard cables? Okay, so we've talked about the ins and the outs and some of the oddities with the Model 5, but let's take a look at the thermal performance. As a reminder, the specs for our test bench, which you're seeing on the screen right here, these are the same parts we use in all of our PC case tests, every time. Now, we're also testing in the same environment with the same tests. Also, these tests are run at Intel stock CPU power settings. Now, they are different than what you're seeing in the beauty build because they're ugly, but they work really well for testing. Now, one other side note here is while we did use an SFX power supply for our showcase build, we tested the Model 5 with the same ATX-sized PSU that we do for all of our other case reviews. This is how we determined that a smaller PSU would be better fit for our showcase build. With that in mind, here's the data. Now, during our AIO test, the Geometric Future Model 5 held an average of 24 degrees Celsius while idle. The average puts it in line between cases like the Antec C7 and C5, as well as the Fractal North XL glass. Not only that, the Model 5 was only 2 degrees warmer than our coolest case. Those are idle temps, but what about a real challenge, Roby? Well, under full CPU load, the Model 5 stayed remarkably cool with averages of 72 degrees Celsius. Those temps put the Model 5 in line with cases like the NZXT H6 and H7 Flow, as well as the Fractal North XL Mesh and the Antec C7. Again, for context, these averages put the Model 5 on the cooler end of our 2024 lineup of tested cases. As for gaming, we have a similar story. The Model 5 averaged 41 degrees Celsius, landing it in between the H6 and H7 again. But what about air cooling? An AIO did great, but the Model 5, can it hang as an airflow case? As it turns out, it can. At idle, the Model 5 CPU averaged 24 degrees Celsius, matching the cooling of the newly redesigned NZXT H5 Flow. Under CPU load, the story is similar, but the Model 5 misses the H5 by 1 degree. With an average of 76 degrees, the Model 5 is not messing around. And finally, in gaming, the Model 5 lost some ground in our rankings, but it still managed to hold a respectable temperature, averaging 46 degrees Celsius. That tied the Model 5 with the North XL glass. As for GPU temperatures, the Model 5 did not disappoint. In our AIO test at idle, it held our test GPU at a thermal average of 28 degrees Celsius. This puts it in line with the NZXT H7 Flow. Under GPU load, in our gaming benchmarks, the Model 5 held averages of 61 degrees. This positioned it next to cases like the Cougar FV270 and the Asus ProArt PA602. Our air cooler test showed a similar story, with the Model 5's test GPU hanging out at an average of 28 degrees at idle and 60 degrees while gaming. So, with an exceptional thermal showing and a build or two completed, would we recommend the Geometric Future Model 5 Vent as your next PC case? Now let's start with the positive. The Model 5 handled our battery of tests like a champ. From a thermal perspective, this thing was outstanding, and it hung out with a number of equally outstanding PC cases. For a case that prioritizes aesthetics, the Model 5 showed up to work. Now, speaking of working, even though it took some extra steps to get it adjusted, we really liked the included GPU bracket. We saw a similar thing with the APNX V1, and as GPUs kept getting bigger and bigger, the inclusion of these is a welcome sight. And finally, the build did turn out really pretty here, but this is where things take a turn. The showcase PC that you're seeing right here took us 6 hours to build, and to be clear, I built one in 20 minutes while eating a hot chip challenge. And that was with using Corsair's IQ Link system to reduce cabling. Even then, we still had to get creative with hiding and routing cables. However, one of the realities of the Model 5 is that you're going to have awkward cable runs no matter how hard you try. This is, again, where you can't trust the pictures you see online for the case. While the Geometric Future tries to make the Model 5 look super clean, it takes a ton of thoughtful planning and curation of the right parts and some expert level know-how to minimize the mess that you will get if you just try to wing it. Now, all of this is only a big deal if you're a stickler for good cable management. If you're a cram and slam type of builder and you don't care about the cables just hanging out, you're gonna have a mess on your hands. Not like trying to be mean here, but this is a case where you just can't afford to be lazy. Now, when we look at the whole picture, we understand the design, but it seems like the vision and the execution were disconnected. The Model 5 tries to pull off the looks of a dual chamber case without being a dual chamber case. And don't get me wrong, Geometric Future nailed it aesthetically with the Model 5, but some of the design choices make the Model 5 struggle with fitment of components, cable management, and the overall ease of building extremely difficult, which is kind of a bummer. Now, the one thing that we wish, and this is for Geometric Future and other PC case manufacturers, we wish they would have showcased actual PC parts in their marketing. Whenever we see marketing materials like this, it makes us wonder if they actually ever spent any time building inside of their own cases and testing their own design, or at least making it clear to consumers that what they're looking at is concept art for the product. So really, our recommendation comes down to this. This is a case that's really kind of suited for expert builders who are gonna take their time to make their build inside of the Model 5 the best and cleanest it can be. And if you are a beginner, I guess just know it's gonna take you a lot of time and there's gonna be some frustration. So, do you like the look of the Model 5 Vent? Awesome! It's an incredibly performant case at a competitive price. And if you like the looks of it, and just take inventory of the things we did to maximize space, like adding a unified fan system and an SFX power supply, just be prepared to take things slow. If you're someone who cares about clean cable management, you are my people, and you need to know that the Model 5 will challenge your skills. So maybe this is your level up. It's like Final Fantasy for builders right here. It's like okay, now, if you don't care about cable management, too bad. The Model 5 doesn't really give a rat's butt. It's gonna, you're gonna have to care. With where fans live in this case, you really don't want to just cram things in here. Messy wires inside the main chamber can very easily get caught up in GPU or case fans if you're not careful. So if you want to use this case, you're gonna need to spend your time doing your cable management. Either way, you're gonna be challenged. But challenging isn't necessarily a bad thing. If you choose to build inside of the Model 5, you're gonna learn a thing or 12 about case design and PC building. But this will push you to the brink. You have to decide if the challenge is worth the reward. And you know what? It really can be. just don't trust the marketing. I think the machine needs a little bit more time learning. And with that, this one's done. Those were our thoughts on the Geometric Future Model 5 vent, but we want to know what you think. What do you think of the whole dual chamber meets mid-tower design, and what do you think about Geometric Future's whole take on it? And also, what do you think about PC companies using AI-generated imagery? Is that a good or a bad thing? Let us know all that down in the comments below. Now, while you're down there, go ahead and slap that subscribe button, whip that like button, and ring that notification bell so that you get a notification each and every time we post a video like this right here on Robeytech. Now, if you want some help when you're building this, you want to be able to phone a friend, make sure you join us over at discord.gg/Robeytech. Amazing place to meet other tech and PC enthusiasts who love to chat about these very same things and potentially help you to make your PC look just as good as this one. And you know what? You might just make a friend. Also, make sure you follow us on all the other socials at Robeytech, absolutely everywhere. Thank you so much for watching this video. We look forward to seeing you on the next one.